All right, everyone. South Korea is getting a little bit more active in trying to restart the negotiations with the North, partially because, at least insofar as the U.S. and China are concerned, it's stalled out more. China has been more strong-arm with their messages lately, and the U.S., of course, has withdrawn some. But this is actually not a bad thing, because what it is, the goal should be North and South Korea reuniting. Or at least on paper, ending the Korean War itself as an active thing. That doesn't even necessarily fully involve the U.S. or China. For us, it's more about political strategy. The people who have to actually live in Korea are Koreans. So it's actually a good thing, I think, for them to be basically taking the lead. And more has been done between North and South Korea anyway. Like with the U.S., we got some remains repatriated. They blew up a couple missile test sites and dismantled their initial nuclear testing area. But for the most part, that's nothing particularly significant. I mean, they've got plenty more missile systems. They can always build a new place to test hydrogen bombs. I think that has more to do with the fact that they realized that the yield was getting too high for a very small country to safely continue testing. They ended up leaving behind a steaming crater the last time that was probably heavily irradiated because of the nature of underground tests as they are anyway. And repatriating remains, it's like, okay, that's wonderful. It's great to have, the remains of people who died in some work camp after being tortured for years and years, or who got blown up by a landmine, but that's ultimately more about just strict diplomacy and era of good feelings as opposed to anything more substantial. But between North and South Korea, you've got the withdrawal of certain artillery systems. They've ended the cross-border propaganda broadcasts. You've had, the return of various remains, and they've been working together to get more of them. You've got landmines that have been pulled out, which is a huge issue. Apparently, every rainy season, some of them float like down the river and end up blowing up on people's farms and shit, and like blowing the legs off animals and crazy things like that. Can you imagine living under those weird situations? And then their soldiers are milling about openly on both sides of the DMZ at this point without it really having a problem. They're just sort of hanging out. That's good. That really, the likelihood of having some tragic mistake happening where you end up with a nuclear war is considerably lower when you have that sort of situation. It would be wonderful if U.S. troops were also able to participate in a more open way. Maybe that's something that we should do with North Korea. A lot of it is ultimately about symbolism. It's about mutual respect, and it's more Shakespearean than it is actual tangible sort of on-the-ground results. You have to play that sort of weird game where you shake the hands and use the honorary titles and stuff. This is common in politics. You have to do, it's 9 parts, interpersonal bullshit to 1 part actual signing of papers within politics, especially for anyone in an executive capacity. Really, what's Trump's ultimate job unless there's a war going on? To look pretty for the cameras and talk to people and shake hands and then set the stage for legislation to occur. That's basically what it boils down to. That's why we have so many problems at the moment in our country, because Trump is willing to play that game, and it's actually the Democrats in the House largely that are stymieing that because they don't want a tango, so to speak. So I'm hoping that things continue happening in Korea. There has been a move towards peace. That's good. Any movement towards it is better than the alternative. And Trump is uniquely the only president that has managed to make this all happen. People said he was fucking nuts when he said it in the first place. Well, I want to have a summit with Kim Jong-un. Oh my God, you're going to be an embarrassment and shit. Well, you look at it, there's plenty of results have already been made. He hasn't done a bad job. He's already done more than any of the other recent presidents we've had on the issue. And he's managed to do it without opening fire on anybody. The situation there is considerably safer, and hopefully will continue to get more safe. But it's going to primarily be, I said this over a year ago, it's going to have to be between North and South Korea mainly. Our main goal there should be to sort of look over the situation and just make sure that South Korea knows, hey, we do have your back. You're arguing from a position of strength ultimately. We are the main power in the world. We've got your back, no problems. It got to the point where I think part of the reason why Kim Jong-un was nudged in the direction of wanting more direct diplomacy was that South Korea started muttering about wanting nuclear weapons. That would have been a bad situation. Yes, it probably would have led to a war. Japan started talking about it too. That must have made everyone in Asia nervous. Why do you think China came to the table? It wasn't just a matter of, well, this is becoming diplomatically untenable. We're looking to just like build factories in Africa and go, basically colonialize people. So we're not so worried about North Korea anymore. We want to be one of the big boys diplomatically too. Okay, that's definitely part of it, but I think a nuclear Japan would have been a significant worry. They already have to worry about the fact that at their southern neighbor, India has a rapidly inclining population and military capability. China's already struggling with the specter of the possibility of them and Pakistan hammering one another because China has decent trade relations with both. What happens if you have a nuclear Japan? What happens if Duterte goes nuts and tries to get atomic weapons? That could be an even bigger problem. So I think China's less worried about the Korean situation, sort of backed off and said, look, fucking negotiate. And it's good for everyone. Like, this is an aspect of a bunch of people who are technically under one banner, who have been split apart politically because of the Red Scare, the war on communism, which the communists thankfully lost. They've been ripped apart for no good reason, and they should be able to, you know, live in peace on their fucking peninsula. It's a good thing for the world. It makes the world safer. Yes, the U.S. position should be peace at all reasonable costs. That's what we should take up as our slogan in regards to negotiating. They want fucking sanction relief or something. As long as there's some tangible on-the-ground activity that takes care of our concerns in a military sense, yeah, go ahead, give them sanction relief. Yeah, we're going to normalize relations. We're going to have an embassy in Pyongyang and everything. Yes, we should probably move towards such a thing. Go ahead and give them concessions. Ultimately, a lot of them will be meaningless and symbolic, but it helps to promulgate the idea that there won't be war. And then once you've promulgated that idea, it's easier to have further negotiations because then people are arguing. They're no longer sweating bullets and thinking, well, if I say the wrong thing, if we give up the wrong concession, we could end up enslaved or something. You got to understand the average North Korean still believes that, like, you know, Americans want to invade and crazy shit like that, which obviously isn't true. But you know, when Kim Jong-un is running a population that thinks that way, he's got to be careful too for internal reasons. He's literally got to be careful of not starting a coup or a civil war or something like that. So you know, in a weird way, you do have to kind of understand where he's coming from as well. He doesn't want to get killed by his own people or anything like that. That's about all. Peace out.